Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the number one MMA DFS prep show in all of the land. I am your host, Monk, aka the Monkmatician. And in this very episode, guys, we've got 13 fights, UFC Las Vegas, to go over, headlined by Merab Dvalishvili and Petr. We've got some interesting debuts as well. The rescheduled Nikita Krylov Ryan Spann fight, I know you're all clamoring for. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. First things first, be sure to check out dfsarmy.com. Use code MONK, save yourself some percentage off on a almost said prescription, on a subscription to the VIP package today. There's tons of other sports going on, guys. Just because football's over doesn't mean we don't have basketball. Hockey, I believe, just started. We've even got esports to go over on the website. So, guys, be sure to check that out. dfsarmy.com. Use code MONK, M.O.N.K. Save yourself some money on a VIP package. And let's get right into it, guys. Tyson Nam going against Bruno Silva. Nam, we just saw KO. Who was it? Ode Osborne in the first round. He put up 105 points and made the optimal lineup. $7,300 this week, so a big underdog. 2.47 points per minute, and 108 is what he puts up per win over his last five. Almost 109. A very good number. Average value of 14.23 per win. Top four number on the card, and he's 450 under his average salary, which is pretty much always a dog salary. Bruno Silva has not fought in basically almost 2 years at this point. He is 2-2, one no contest in his last five in the UFC. Twice, though, both of his wins, he has made the optimal lineup because he scores 3.76 per minute and 129.6 per win, guys. The second highest number on the card per win. Only gives up less than 80 points per loss. He is almost 1,000 over his average salary, so we are paying a premium for a guy that has not fought in almost 2 years, but his average value is over 15x, guys. He needs 118 to make optimal lineup this week, based on historical numbers. At 129, like I said, is his average over his last 2 wins. In the UFC, yeah, it's the same. He only has 2 wins in the UFC. Both guys are scoring fantastically. I think this is a must-target fight. I generally don't like to target flyweights as they only make optimal lineup 42% of the time. But these guys are, I think, a different breed. Most of the time, somebody gets finished in their fights, it looks like. Yeah, in their wins. Yeah, all 5 of their last 5 wins are finishes. Neither one has been finished, and neither one gives up a ton of points. That is my one hesitation on this fight. But I think you should probably target this one. It will be under-owned because it's a flyweight fight. This is the first fight of the night, so there might be some more action on it than usual. But I will be targeting this one. Bruno Silva puts up, almost 1.5 points per minute in takedowns and control time. Tyson Nam has given up no points in those categories. His last 5 fights, 100% takedown defense that will be tested here, I'm sure. The strength of schedule, pretty much the same. You want these numbers over 70. We are under 70 across the board, pretty much. But they are pretty virtually identical here. 3-2, like I said, for Tyson Nam, with wins over Osborne, Rivera, and Adeshev. Losses to KKF and Matt Schnell. So he's beating guys he should beat. Maybe, the Ode Osborne was a bit surprising. And losing to guys he should lose to. Bruno Silva on the other side wins over JP Bays, Victor Rodriguez, some subpar opponents here. Wow, he was plus money against JP Bays. That's crazy. 131 is what he scored in that one. 127.5 against Rodriguez. Lost to Tagir Ulanbekov. That's not a bad loss. And David Dvorak. So here are my projections and the visual statistical recap, career finishing percentages. Probably won't be talking about those too much. You can just pause it if you need to look at them, but I will try to remember to show the projections here. I'm liking this fight for DraftKings. Long story short, I like the Bruno Silva side. 8,900 has a win rate of almost 69%. And as we say, optimal fighters fight optimally. Bruno Silva, 2 out of 2 optimal. So I know he hasn't fought in a long time. And neither guy gives up a ton of points. So maybe don't go all in on this fight, but you should probably target it. Next fight. Tony Gravely going against Victor Henry. We go up 10 pounds in weight to 135. Gravely 3-2 in his last 5. Henry just 1-1 in his UFC career. Did make optimal lineup when he beat Raoni Barcelos, a very surprising win in his first UFC fight. Gravely on the other side, we get him at a dog salary. He's made optimal twice. He's got one of the highest DraftKings upsides on the card, guys. 5.39 points a minute, 123 is what he's averaging over his last 3 wins, a value of 13.8 per win, and he's $900 under his average salary here. He's coming off a loss to Javid Basharat, and I think we're getting him at a discount because of that. Victor Henrique has come off a loss against Rafael Assuncao, who's basically 40 years old, and that fight wasn't very close by any means. Henry got controlled 30% of that fight. He gives up a ton. In fact, I'm going to let you in on some next gen stats, as I call them. What you're about to see is probably won't make sense, but I believe it's this one in his last 5. Yeah, nothing I'm going to show you is going to make sense, so just bear with me for 1 second. Gravely, where is he? Gravely, inside the distance. Gravely scores 6.18 points per minute. That's one of the highest numbers on the entire card. Not higher than Merab, but one of the higher numbers. 6.18 points per minute inside the distance. What does Henry give up inside the distance? 5.36 points per minute is what he gives up inside the distance. That is one of the highest numbers on the entire card. I will be targeting Tony Gravely in this fight. It's not a huge sample size, but Henry, as I just showed you, has shown to give up a ton of takedown and control time points, and Gravely is not someone you want to do that against. He averages 2.82 points per minute in his last 5 in takedowns and control time, some of the highest numbers on the entire card. And Henry's takedown defense will be tested, and it's currently sitting at 57%. Gravely's strength of schedule is much, much better than Henry's across the board. Like I said, he beat Raoni Barcelos, very good win, but he lost to Rafael Assuncao right after that at a salary of $9,300. So this guy's salary is all over the place. I don't trust him yet. Give me Tony Gravely to score a ton of points, hopefully, in a DraftKings upset win. I absolutely love that side of this fight to target, and I will have Gravely in a bunch of lineups at what I consider a discount. Next fight, JJ Aldrich, excuse me. I feel like my voice is going out. Aldrich against Ariane Lipski. JJ Aldrich, 9,400. Lipski, 6,800. Guys, I'm not interested in the Aldrich side. She scores less than 3 a minute. 78 per win over her last 5. Now, that said, Lipski has been finished in 3 of her past 3 losses, all by KO. You expect Aldrich to KO Lipski? Then sure, go ahead and play her. Aldrich has 2 KOs in her career, and I believe none in the UFC. So no KOs in her past 11 fights, 7 wins, I say. Meanwhile, Lipski, 6,800. I'm not really interested in her, except for the fact she's at such a tremendous discount. $1,200 under her average salary, and she scores 96.7 per win over her last 2 wins. Her upside is higher than Aldrich, and Aldrich is 9,400. She has to score 125 for the ideal optimal value. I don't know if I see it, man. The obvious path to victory here is probably the takedowns and control time for JJ Aldrich. She scores almost a point per minute in those categories combined. Meanwhile, Lipski scores well over 1 points per minute in takedowns and controls, or allows rather more than 1 point per minute in takedowns and control time. That's probably Aldrich's path to victory. Strength of schedule is terrible for Aldrich, and she fought Erin Blanchfield. That should tell you something. Sabina Mazo, Courtney Casey, Vanessa Demopoulos, Jillian Robertson. Not a great lineup then with the Blanchfield. Blanchfield, obviously, I consider top, one of the top fighters in the division. If not, we'll see. With that Valentina loss, we'll see. She could become a top fighter, or the top fighter, rather, in the division. Lipski with wins over Luana Carolina and Mandy Bum. Not interested in those wins. Losses to younger Shevchenko, or older? It has to be younger. Montana De La Rosa and Priscilla Cachoeira, in which she lost in just over a minute. Priscilla KO'd her over a minute. Shevchenko knocked her out. Montana De La Rosa knocked her out. Guys, I like the upside of Lipski, but how can you back her? against anyone. Here's my projections. Like I said, the upside is there for Lipski if she wins against Aldrich, but I'm not really expecting a win. That said, I don't feel comfortable rostering Aldrich. Even though this is a women's flyweight fight, you do have to target women's flyweight fights, as I said, week in, week out. Maybe you play Aldrich in cash, but 78 points per win, how could you possibly roster that at 9,400? How could you, if she makes optimal lineup, it would be such an anomaly that how could you plan for that? So unless you're being totally contrarian, give me Aldrich for cash, maybe a little of Lipski and GPPs. It'll allow you to get to the extremely expensive Bautista, who we are about to talk about right now, against Guido Cannetti. Keeping this one at bantamweight, so some smaller weighted fighters to start off the card. That probably didn't make sense. 9,700 for Bautista, 65 for Cannetti, who is now 43 years old and defying the odds, winning his last two against Moutinho and Costa. Neither of those guys are in the UFC anymore, guys. Don't get it twisted. I love Guido Cannetti as much as the next guy. He won a few categories in my best of bantamweight DFS 2022 video. Was right up there with scoring a ton of points because he beat Randy Costa in the first minute, and he beat Chris Moutinho, who just came off the beating of a lifetime against O'Malley in the first 2 minutes. So don't get it twisted. He's lost to Chito Vera, Denan Batgari, and Mana Martinez. I like Mario Bautista here. Question is, can you play him? He's got no knockdown. He's got one knockdown in his last 5. I think the only way for Bautista to pay off his salary is to get a knockdown, maybe 2 knockdowns, and like a quick win bonus. At 9,700, his optimal value is 129 points, guys. 129. He's 1,000 over his average salary, 4.23 points a minute, and 103.5 per win. That's a lot of points. It's nowhere near 129. Meanwhile, Cannetti gives up 96 per loss. You know, Bautista scores well on the ground. Cannetti gives up a ton of points on the ground. Strength of schedule is pretty even, actually. Cannetti winning 3 categories. Bautista with wins over Johns J. Perrin, not in the UFC anymore, Brian Kelleher, and Benito Lopez, who I'm not sure if he's still in the UFC. Trevin Jones, not in the UFC, and he lost Trevin Jones. Actually, that's not true. Trevin Jones probably not in the UFC anymore after his loss to Cody Garbrandt this weekend. Projections. I love Guido Cannetti. I probably played him in a fight or two, probably against Costa, and probably against Moutinho. I will not be playing him against Bautista. Love Bautista for cash. I think he wins this easily. I think he finishes Cannetti. But I just don't think he scores optimal. Only twice has 9,700 been used. Once was Jailton Almeida, so he did make optimal there, landing several takedowns and a bunch of ground and pound, I believe, on Shamil. Bautista's going to need a knockdown or 2 and a quick win bonus, probably, or a first round win, I should say. 2 knockdowns and a ton of shots landed, ton of volume, and a first round finish. He could make optimal. I won't play him in a ton of lineups. He's too expensive. Next fight, short notice. Josh Fremd going against Dana White Contender Series fighter Cedric Dumas. 8,800 for Cedric, 74 for the short notice replacement Josh Fremd. You know me, I hate short notice replacements. I don't play them. They only win at like a 37% rate. They did very well last weekend. But Fremd scores for DraftKings 1.96 points a minute. He has no wins in the UFC. He gives up 5.38 a minute, 106 when he loses. And he lost to Tresean Gore, guys. He lost to Anthony Hernandez. Great. That's a good loss. Anthony Hernandez is good. I'm not Tresean Gore's biggest fan. I think he's probably not good, and he lost to Tresean Gore very quickly. Dumas, you got to throw this fight out. 7.74 points a minute. 121 is what he would have scored in his Dana White Contender Series fight. Scoring almost 6. I mean, he's finished this guy in less than a minute. He subbed him out, I believe. Yeah, first minute submission over Matej Henaz. Projections, obviously much higher for Dumas. 50% finish loss rate in the UFC. That's all going to be from Fremd, obviously. What's their career? Actually, what's their career? 50% in losses over their career. Cedric 7-0. I don't trust this guy for DraftKings. I have no idea what he's going to do. I will probably have more of him rostered than Fremd. I know a lot of people are on Fremd this week. It's a very contrarian bet, but I don't trust it. Like I said, this guy lost to Trayshawn Gore. Let's look at the strength of schedule. Much better for Fremd. Cedric has like the second worst strength of schedule on the entire card. Could be an interesting play, though. I don't trust Fremd. He's going to have to show me that he can score or win before I roster him at all, even at such a cheap price. Even being 700 below his average salary, I don't like it. 8,800 is on a roll this year. Give me Cedric Dumas for DraftKings. But man, that's going to be tough to get to a ton of him. He's going to be a hot prospect this week. Watch. He will be a very high-owned fighter. So you're going to have to take a stand on him. Next fight, Rafael Assuncao going against dangerous Davy Grant. Davy Grant coming in on short notice, I believe. $8,500 for Grant. $77 for the 40-year-old Assuncao. Not interested in Assuncao at all, even though he has made the optimal lineup. He beat Victor Henry at 6,900, scored 75 points, made the optimal lineup. He's now $7,700. 420 over his average salary in his last 5. And he only scores 2 points a minute, 75.6 per win. I'm not interested in that at all. I will have 0% Rafael Assuncao this week. So we look at Davy Grant. Has made optimal lineup as well, 1 out of 4 times. He's 3-2 in the UFC in his last 5. $8,500, 3.5 points per minute. A pretty decent per minute scorer there. 96.5 per win. That is average for the card. And he's also 750 over his average salary, guys. Again, both guys well over their average salary. Not really too interested in this fight, I don't think. He's got wins, Davy Grant, over Martin Day, Jonathan Martinez, who's also on this card, and Luis Smolka. Lost to Yanez and Vera. So he's beating guys he should beat, losing to guys he should lose to. However, he was plus 245 against Jonathan Martinez. KO'd him in the second round. Here are my projections. Much higher for Davy Grant, as you would imagine. I like Grant to win this fight. I don't know how much I'm going to get to of him in DraftKings. 8,500 is a great salary to play. 25% optimal. But man, I just don't like this fight for DraftKings. I think I'm going to just take a stand and fade this whole fight. Assuncao has been finished in 3 of his past 4 losses. But he's not giving up a ton of points. When he loses by submission, 106. Only 70 when he loses by decision. 97 when he loses by knockout. I guess that's a decent amount. But for Davy Grant to make optimal, he's going to be looking to score 113. Is he going to do that against Assuncao? I don't think so. Assuncao allows just 92 over his last 5, 89 over his career. So give me Grant. Big fade on DraftKings for both sides. Next fight. Lukasz Brzeski going against Carl Williams. Carl Williams, Dana White Contender Series fighter. No love is going to Brzeski, who looked awful in his loss against Martin Buday. That fight was terrible. Terrible. 0-1 for Brzeski in the UFC. Carl Williams, this is his debut. 7,200 for Brzeski. Scored 3.2 a minute. Allowed just 177, but that was against Buday. Buday doesn't do anything except score 56 points in a win. That's all Buday does. Brzeski is $100 under his average. I'm not interested. I will be targeting the newcomer, Carl Williams. He would have scored 3.8 points a minute. 87 is what he would have got in his 15-minute decision win. But he only allowed half a point per minute. That's kind of what piques my interest, as well as the 2.31 points per minute in takedowns and control time. Brzeski, Buday didn't attempt any takedowns, I don't think, against Brzeski. So we haven't seen, no takedowns attempted against Brzeski. He will face some, I assume, from Carl Williams, who lands 3 per 15 minutes. And this is what we could see here, kind of a big heavyweight, Williams gets a takedown, lays on him, does minimal damage. Round is over. Williams gets a takedown, lays on him, does minimal damage. Round is over. He's only got 3 finished wins out of 7 total wins in his career. Give me Carl Williams. I'll have a bit of him in DraftKings, but I think I'm going to fade this fight overall. Someone's going to have to get a KO for them to score well, I think. No one's getting submitted. I would be shocked if that happened. in this fight. So someone's going to need to get a KO. I just see Carl Williams controlling a ton of this fight. He could actually score okay, but at 9K, he needs 120 to 13x his salary. I just don't know how much of him I'm going to be able to get to. I don't like the Brzeski side at all. Carl Williams, it's kind of a crapshoot, but he could score tremendously well. I mean, if he has this takedown and control time upside, Brzeski has shown none of that, but that said, he hasn't had to show any of it. Could be an interesting play. I want to see what ownership is on Carl Williams. If it's 30%, I'll go over. If it's higher than that, I'll go under. Here's another one. I've seen a lot of people on Anton Turkalj, the Pleasure Man. That's the world's worst nickname. 0-1. He got smashed by Jailton Almeida. Absolutely dominated in his debut. He scored less than 1 point a minute and allowed a ton of points. You have to throw all these stats out, guys. Petrino got a second-round finish over whoever he was fighting. Dana White Contender Series fight. Scored 4.5 points a minute almost and 108 per win, or when he did win. No points and takedowns, half a point per minute control time. Scored a knockdown. Got knocked down. Oof, wow. This one's a crapshoot, boys. Projections, obviously, are in the toilet for Turkalj because of Jailton Almeida. I don't know anything about this fight. You have to throw both stats out the window. Everyone's favoring Petrino. It looks, well, the odds are favoring Petrino. A lot of people I've seen on Anton Turkalj. Debuting fighters only win 42% of the time. That's a stat we haven't said yet. Very close fight, 8,200, 8,000. I don't really know what to do here. I guess you have to play both sides if that's the case. I'll be higher on Petrino than Anton, but I don't trust either side, and I don't know what's going to happen. Very low level, very high volatility. Anything could happen here. That means you have to play both sides, unfortunately. But at 8,200, 8,000, these could easily be the last two guys to be slotted into your lineups. If you've played a bunch of top guys and then try to balance it out with some low-end guys, you can plug either one of these guys in, 8,000, 8,200, and basically go 50-50 in however many lineups you're putting them in. So that's how I would probably play this one. I tend to favor guys that have UFC experience. And UFC experience against Jailton Almeida, I don't know if that's going to be a hindrance or helpful. So, I mean, I guess give me Petrino to win, but I don't trust either guy. Hopefully this fight tells us a little bit about one of these fighters. Next fight, Said Nurmagomedov going against Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez, 4-1 in his last 5. His only loss to Davey Grant, who's also on this card. Sorry for the scrolling. He did win over Dvalishvili, Alejandro Perez, Vince Morales, and Cub Swanson. KO'd Cub Swanson back in October. Scored 127. And that is how he made the optimal lineup. $7,100 this week. Martinez is $1,600 under his average salary. I think you're paying way up for the Nurmagomedov name, even though he's not related to Habib or any of those guys. Umar, none of them. 9,100 for Said Nurmagomedov. He's coming off of a pretty good win over Romanov. He was getting beat, I think, that whole fight. Slightly getting beat. He was getting outworked, and then out of nowhere, he grabbed like the third guillotine attempt he locked in. He then beat the 40-year-old Douglas Silva de Andrade before that, and Cody Stamen before that. Mark Striegel lost to Ioni Barcelos. I think the schedule is 10, 12 points better for Nurmagomedov. I don't know about this fight, man, for DraftKings. I like Nurmagomedov, I think, to win. But as far as DraftKings, I might play more Martinez than Nurmagomedov. He scores 1.8 points per minute over his last 5. This is below the Lewis line. 1.8 points per minute. 94 per win is all he scores. At 9,100, I'm not interested in 94 points at all. He only allows 64 per loss in his one loss, and just giving up 2.7 points a minute. Average value per win, less than 10. I am not interested in that. Has a high ceiling of 120. That's right around his optimal value, but not quite. I don't know how much of Nurmagomedov I'm going to be able to get to. He does not take down and control time points at all. Doesn't accumulate them, I should say. Less than 0.2 per minute. Very low numbers on the card. Jonathan Martinez scores over 3 a minute. 82.5 per win. At 7,100, I would take that. That might even sneak on the optimal, even though the optimal value for this salary is 94. 82, 83 points could do a little sneak job. 1,600 under his average salary. Average value per win is only 9.65. I'm not really interested in either guy here. Okay, I'm going to take that back. Normally, I wouldn't be interested in either guy here. 7,100 for Martinez, 4-1, over 3 points a minute. Nurmagomedov only has a 62% takedown defense. We can get something going with Martinez. I know he's mostly a striker. Man, strength of schedule is bad. I mean, bad. Here are my projections. Very similar. I don't really like this fight for DraftKings. I am going to be fading it overall, but I will have much more Martinez than Nurmagomedov, most likely. Yeah, I just don't. Man, the value per win less than 10 points per guy. I do not like that at all. I'm gonna fade this fight for sure. I think Nurmagomedov is gonna be pretty high owned. I think Martinez could be decently high owned as well. So I'd play the ownership game here. If this fight is like 60, 70, 80% owned, I'm gonna be under that for sure. Probably still be higher on Martinez though. 7,100. Next fight, Ricardo Ramos going against Austin Lingo. I love Ramos in this fight. $9,500. He is expensive, but that is a great salary to play, as it makes the optimal lineup 47% of the time. It's been a rough go for the $9,500 salary lately. We're going to try to rebound here against Austin Lingo. I'm not interested in the $6,700 salary at all. Plus, combine that with Lingo's stats, which are very subpar. I'm not interested in the Lingo side at all. Even though he's 1,900 under his average salary, don't want it. Salary only wins 5% of the time. That's it, 5%. Ramos, can he make optimal? Can he score 126 points? 3.5 per minute, 102 per win, 920 over his average salary. Average value of 11.75, not great, not terrible. Outscoring his opponents by 125, a 105 ceiling. Man, if he doesn't finish Lingo quickly, Lingo has not been finished in the UFC. In fact, he's never been finished in his career. He is 9-1. Who did he lose to? Yusuf Zalal. Unanimous decision. He beat Jacob Kilburn, Luis Saldana. Ramos beat Garagori. Bill Algeo. Danny Chavez in the first minute, basically. Lost to Zubaira. Lost to the undefeated Lerone Murphy. I like Ramos to win. I like Ramos for cash. I don't think I like Ramos for GPPs, guys. Everything in me is screaming, play the $9,500 salary. His points are just not high enough. His ceiling's not high enough. His value is not high enough. You're only playing salary voodoo if you play Ricardo Ramos. You're choosing to ignore his points per win. You're choosing to ignore the fact that Lingo is 9-1 and has never been finished. I think I'm going to have to fade Ricardo Ramos here, guys. I think I'm going to have to fade him. Not playing Lingo at all, probably. Probably not playing Lingo at all. Probably not playing much of Ramos. I'm going to go under week. Man, maybe I'll go a bit over on. Maybe I'll go a bit over on Martinez. I don't know. 9,700. That's tough. I just don't like these numbers for Ramos. It's too low. He's only made optimal lineup once. I like the points per minute, but it's only 9th best on the card. I like the points per win, but it's only 10th best on the card. I mean, we're barely scratching the top 10 in some of these, and we're $1,000 over our average salary. I think this is too much. I think you got to fade it. Next fight. Happy birthday to Nikita Krylov. It is his birthday at the time of this recording, March 7th. Happy birthday. He is 31 years old. Going against Ryan Spann, also 31 years old, but 6-7 months older almost. 8,700 for Krylov, 75 for Spann. I'm not going to talk about this much. If you want to see my breakdown, go watch it from 2 weeks ago, because this fight was canceled the night of. I believe Krylov was sick with food poisoning and had to pull out on the night of the card. Play this fight, guys. Play this fight. That's my breakdown. 8,700 for Krylov is good. 7,500 for Spann is great. Both guys score off the charts. Spann has the best offensive pace on the entire card. Both guys are a bit over their average salary. Krylov more so. I mean, both guys land and allow a ton of takedowns and control time. Both have terrible takedown defense. Is this right? Ryan Spann has a 0% takedown defense. Hold on. I have to look at this now. I can't see a stat like that and just not look at it. That's not true. What's going on here? 47. Oh, wait, that was in his last 5. Hold on, guys. Sorry for clicking. Okay, yeah. Ryan Spann in his career, 47.06% takedown defense. In his last 5, it is 0. He gave up 3 of 3 from Ion Cutelaba and still subbed him in the first round. So take that with what you will. Krylov has been subbed 6 times in his pro career. 6 out of his 9 losses are submissions. 4 out of his 7 UFC losses are submissions. And 1 out of his last 2 losses in the UFC are submissions. Ryan Spann has 12 subs on his record. 2 in the UFC and 1 in his last 5. I like the Spann submission. I like the Krylov finish. I will be playing both sides of this one. I've already talked about it longer than I want to. Play that fight. Next fight, co-main event, the battle of the Alexanders. If Alexander Volkov wins, Alexander Romanov has to put an E in his first name. If Romanov wins, Alexander Volkov has to remove an E from his first name. That is the stipulation for this fight. Volkov, not impressed with him via as far as DraftKings points go. 7,600 is his current salary. He is 700 under his average value of just 10, 2.41 points a minute, 89 per win. I don't like any of those numbers I just read. He only scores 0. He scores no takedowns and control time points. A pure striker, Alexander Volkov. That said, he is 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. Alexander Romanov, $8,600 this week, has made optimal in 1 out of his last 4 fights. I love this guy. He is coming off of a loss to Marcin Tybura, so we are getting him at a discount. He's a great DraftKings score, guys. 4.5 points per minute, 106 per win. He allows only 1.89 per minute and only gave up 59 against Tybura, making me dislike Volkov for DraftKings even more. Romanov, as I said, he is at a discount this week at 520 under his average. Average value is 11.34, and he's outscoring his opponents 2.65 points per minute. Guys, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Takedowns and control time points are where it's at here. 1.6 points per minute for Romanov. That is a huge number. Absolutely huge. Strength of schedule is the other huge number. It is much, much, much better for Volkov. Beating Rosenstruik, Tybura, and Overeem, losing to Gane and Aspinall. Romanov beat Tybura, lost to Tybura, beat Sherman, Vandera, Espino. Not the best wins by names anyway. But I do want to show you guys back to the nonsense that I showed you earlier. Here's Volkov. Sorry, Romanov. 5.66 points per minute is what Romanov is scoring inside the distance. Alexander Volkov allows 4.21 points per minute when he is fighting inside the distance. What else did I want to show you? How often are we fighting in the distance with these guys? Volkov, let's see, spends, if I can find my stat, 30% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance in his UFC career. He only controls 22% of that fight time. Now we look at Romanov. 87% of all of his fight time in the UFC is inside the distance. Sorry, that's not true. 69% of all of his fight time in the UFC is inside the distance. He controls 89% of that fight time. I just showed you he scores over 5 points a minute when he's inside the distance. I just showed you Volkov allows over 4 points a minute when he's inside the distance. I'm going to be big on Romanov this week at what I consider a discount, at what I consider a value, and what I consider a very good salary, 8,600. It has a win rate of 65.5%, and it makes the optimal lineup 34.5% of the time it's played. That is the 5th best number overall. Give me Romanov to win, to rebound, and give me Romanov to hopefully make the optimal lineup here. I'd love to see a sub over Volkov. You saw what Aspinall did to him. You saw what Tom Aspinall did to him. He landed 2 takedowns on Volkov, and he subbed him in the first round. Why can't Alexander Romanov do that exact same thing? He's probably not as athletic as Tom Aspinall. Not many at that weight class are, but he only weighed in it. He weighed in at under 240 in his last heavyweight fight. So I think he's taking his nutrition, his body more seriously. Could come in here a little bit quicker of a step, and get some takedowns, ground and pound submission on Volkov. That's how we're looking to play this one. I like Romanov at 8,600. I will have him rostered in a ton of lineups. I'm not really interested in the Volkov side of things. Next fight, guys, our main event of the evening. Hit the like, hit the sub on this video. Check out dfsarmy.com. Use code M.O.N.K, M-O.N.K. Save yourself some money on a VIP package today. We've got a fantastic fight. This is a must play for DraftKings. Petr Yan going against my guy, Merab Dvalishvili. I absolutely love Merab. I'm a Merab fanboy. I go, no thanks to Petr Yan. Yes, please, to Merab Dvalishvili. 9,200 for Yan. Let's start with that side because I'm going to go crazy for Merab here in a minute. 9K is his average salary. He is 180 more expensive than his average. 12.33 average value per win in his last 5. Only 2 wins, though. 131 points per win. You see that and you're like, wow, fantastic. 3.76 per minute. Amazing. 154 ceiling. That's great. Almost 1 point a minute in takedowns and control time. Let's see. He only scored 108 against Corey Sandhagen. Did he make optimal? No. Wait. Yes. Corey Sandhagen, 108. Made optimal lineup. That's not a ton of points, but at 8,800, that is a good score. Scored 154 against Jose Aldo, guys. 154. KO'd him in the 5th. That was just a mauling. You have to take this fight out. 154. Look, you would have scored decent against Aljo in the first one. In the second one, if that fight goes his way, he scores less than 81 points, Petr Yan. If the Sean O'Malley fight goes his way, he scores 101 points, which is a good score. But at 9,300, you're not making the optimal lineup probably on a 101 point score. So I'm throwing that 150 out, which means I'm lowering this 130. I'm lowering it like 110. I think Petr Yan is way too expensive here. I don't understand this at all. His strength of schedule is much better than Merab's, as you would expect. I mean, he's fought the champion twice and Jose Aldo. Projections, blah, blah, blah. Now, here's where I like this. Here's where the stat boy in me is like fluttering. Merab, not only has he made the optimal in 2 out of his past 3 fights, he's only 7K this week. $1,800 cheaper than his average salary for one of the best DraftKings scorers on the entire card, if not in the entire UFC. Merab is averaging 114 points per fight, win or loss per fight, and he's won all of his last 5. 5.5 points per minute, 114.36 per win, as I just said. Allows only 1.5 points per minute defensively. 13.38 average value. Outscoring his opponents by 4. He has what I consider a more legitimate ceiling at 151 points. Scores well over 2.4 points per minute in takedowns and control time, plus 3 points a minute in striking. Guys, that's the second best number on the card. Do you think Rob is just a wrestler, just a grappler? He scores 3.1 points per minute in striking. That is second best on the. I know I just repeated myself, but I thought it needed to be repeated. Strength of schedule is decent, over 70, not as good as Petr Yan. Wins over Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, in which he scored 163. 107 against Stamen, 74 against Dodson, 148 against Lopez. So he's kind of up and down. He's a bit all over the place as far as scoring goes. But when you average it out, it is a rather incredible number. Yan has a 91.5% takedown defense. That will be tested here. Merab is the teammates with Aljamain Sterling. Beat Yan twice. Last time was just a backpack. I mean, are we going to see the same thing? Are we going to see Merab getting a takedown per round and just riding Petr Yan out? That would make me so incredibly happy. I don't know what else could possibly be better on this card, but I would love to see it. At 7, long story short, at 7K, Rob has to score just 93 points to be considered optimal. Well, the ideal score to make the optimal lineup, I should say. Um, you know, 20, 30 points less than Petr Yan has to score. We're at 7K, $1,800 under the average salary for one of the best DraftKings scores on the card. Give me Merab Dvalishvili. Give me Rob Dvalishvili. I don't know how much Petr Yan I'm going to get to, short of a KO finish. Well, that's not true. He does score very well in decisions. This is a must-play fight. I know I'm talking a lot about Merab. You have to play both sides of this, and you have to play. I'll probably play 100% of this fight. I'm going to be much heavier on Dvalishvili than on Yan. That said, man, I'm not the biggest Yan fan at all. He's 2-3 in his last 5. A lot of people would say he should be 4-1, but he's not. He's 2-3. 9,200 is too expensive in my opinion. I don't think he finishes Merab. I don't think he scores 122 in a win. And I think Merab actually has a decent chance here. So I could be wrong going for the huge underdog here, but it might be my bias. But I'm going to pick Dvalishvili, and I will have a ton of him rostered as well. All right, guys, we did it. Only a few things left to do. Let's go over Computer Monk's picks. Last week we did pretty well. 10-4. I wouldn't say very well. 10-4, 71.5% on the year. 68, almost 69%, guys. A huge year so far. I personally also went 10-4. I am at 65% on the year. M.O.N.K this week. Who do we have? Bruno Silva decision. Tony Gravely decision. JJ Aldrich decision. Mario Bautista finish. Cedric Dumas finish. Davy Grant finish. Carl Williams decision. Vitor Petrino finish. Jonathan Martinez decision over Said Nurmagomedov. Interesting. Ricardo Ramos decision. Nikita Krylov finish. Alexander Romanov finish. Rob Dvalishvili finish or decision. Guys, honestly, I love every single one of those picks. I'm probably going to echo that. I love it. I love the Gravely pick over Henry. I love the Martinez pick. I love the Merab pick. I mean, Krylov, maybe I'll end up picking Spann, but I think Krylov is the smart choice. I love this. Love it. I think M.O.N.K's onto something this week. And guys, there's only one thing left to do. Last week, the M.O.N.K pick of the week, the most no nonsense, $9,200 for Shavkat Rakhmonov. I am sorry to say he did not make the optimal lineup, but did score over 98 points. Where is he? 98.29, a standing rear naked choke over Jeff Neal. What an incredible performance from Shavkat Rakhmonov. I know he did not make the optimal lineup, but he did score 98, so I think he did well for you in cash. And I'm happy with this pick. It was no Aaron Blanchfield from the week before, but I am happy about this one. And I'm the biggest Shavkat fanboy you're going to meet. Guys, who's it going to be this week? The most no-nonsense pick of the week, I think you can guess. It's a guy that wears that also wears a furry hat on his head. I just talked about him. I'm his biggest fan. It's Merab Dvalishvili, dude. I love this guy. How can you not like this guy? How can you not like him? 7K, one of the best DraftKings scores on the entire card. His name is fun to say. He seems like an incredibly fun guy. I mean, come on. What is not to like? I mean, he's got a fantastic red beard. Red beards, stand up. Your boy is fighting this weekend. Rob Dvalishvili. We're going to get it done over Petr Yan. Yes, we are. I'm not calling the fight. I can be biased. I want Merab to win, make optimal lineup at 7K, absolutely blow the doors off of this slate. He's my favorite dog by far. He's one of the biggest dogs by far. I think we're getting a deal on him if you ask me. Even in a loss, this guy scores 80 points on average. Give me Merab Dvalishvili, most owned, no nonsense. Pick of the week, the M.O.N.K pick of the week. And that is going to do it, guys. Excuse me. That said, cough out of the way and everything. Thank you so much for joining me Like I said, be sure to check out dfsarmy.com. I am very excited for this card. Some interesting newcomers. We get to see Merab go against Jan. I'm super stoked. So, guys, there's only one thing left to do. I want all of you to enjoy the fights. So, enjoy. We will see you in the next one.